Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be giving you an update on Major Hurricane Melissa as it nears Jamaica as a very strong and destructive Category 5 hurricane. I'll be giving you guys an update on the fall outlook as well as the future long-range look as we get into November. And my winter forecast will officially be coming tomorrow. So if you are ready for that, please let me know in the comments. It's going to cover the whole entire mainland US, so it'll be a fun one for tomorrow. If you do enjoy this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing with your friends, and let's get right into it. So as we usually do, we start out with the National Weather Service alerts and indices, and relatively quiet. I mean, there is some highlighted alerts that are kind of interesting throughout the state. So we'll start on the west, just some isolated freeze warning and frost advisories. Freeze warnings always in the indigo, frost advisories in the lighter blues. Down in desert southwestern California, we do have some heat advisories and red flag warnings, so some fire related issues down there. This is more cold and winter related issues, and below average temperatures. Over here in Wyoming, you have some winter weather advisories, as we did have this Pacific Northwest system now starting to move further east. That was bringing rain and mountain snow. Still is for portions of Wyoming and Colorado, which has these winter weather advisories in these purples. That should expire as it gets further east and into less rocky mountain areas and mountainous terrain. Excuse me. Further south into Colorado, we got some freeze warnings here as well. And then actually in the pinks, we got those are red flag warnings. So again, fire-related indices and cold. And then for the first time, we actually have some freeze watches through much of the Texas Panhandle. Are up here, Oklahoma Panhandle, portions of South Kansas, southeastern Colorado, portions of New Mexico, and portions of southwestern Texas over here. So it's really interesting, is because with that low up here that's kind of going through, there's a kind of this reinforcing cold front coming through that should cause some first freeze and first frosts for many areas down here. So just a surefire sign that winter's on its way. And then as it develops into something bigger, which I'll highlight in this video, you'll see it kind of bring a bigger cold front behind it. Sorry about my throat, it's really scratchy. Just came back from practice, so yeah. In southern Texas, got some special weather statements. We can actually go check that out. Pretty sure just wind related. Or fire watch. Okay, sorry, fire watch. Kind of hard to tell between special weather statements, fire watch, but that is fire watch. And then to the east in Florida, we got some frost. Oh my gosh, not frost. Definitely not frost in Florida. We got some flood watches, as we got some precipitation and some severe weather going on here. Just really light stuff going on. In the northeast, we got some freeze warnings over here in portions of New York, and frost advisories down here into portions of the Mid-Atlantic. Most areas in this region have gone under frost advisories that are really populated. So previously, Washington was in one, Baltimore got into one, Wilmington. I don't know if Philadelphia got into one yet because of urban heating. Trenton is now in one, and New York City hasn't been in one yet because of urban heating. And so we've had frost advisories in pretty much these areas. Basically these areas and into the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, besides Cape May and Wildwood. In these areas, we've had frost advisories and down into here, and for the past few nights in a row. And so growing season is almost basically over for these areas. Once we get a freeze warning, which you see in these indigos starting to creep up north, that's when it's for sure the transition into where your all crops are going to probably die. And then in your extreme bottom right of the map, you got some tropical storm warnings and hurricane warnings. So we'll get to that. Here is Hurricane Melissa, and what a powerhouse hurricane this thing is. 175 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane with a minimum central pressure of 906 millibars. Very impressive storm. I mean, this is set a record for the world's driest eye in a hurricane in the history of the world. Okay, it's a world record. Okay, Melissa's eye dried to an astonishing negative 4.575 Celsius, which is about 20 3 degrees in terms of dew point, which is extremely dry. Like, that is very dry for a hurricane in the island. That just represents a very, very healthy hurricane and very, very strong system. Okay, and you can clearly see that. I mean, it is right there. Does look like at the end of the phrase you get some jaggedness going around the eye. Does mean we could get an eyeball replacement cycle. Who knows? Besides that, I mean, outflow. This is a buzzsaw hurricane. Okay, you get different types of hurricanes. This is a classic buzzsaw hurricane. Okay, you got. It looks like a buzzsaw on the front because you see where the outflow is fanning out. Looks like the blades of a buzzsaw, and then you have the spinning right here going on. Also looks like a buzzsaw, and then it's fanning out very well. Outflow onto the eastern side of the storm and the southern side. So this is just a very, very impressive hurricane. I mean, those cloud tops, these pinks represent very, very cold cloud tops below negative 80 Celsius, which is really, really cold. Okay, and almost some into below negative 90 Celsius, which is, again, very cold. And so you can also see this storm has been wobbling. At this point, we were expecting it to go kind of more north and kind of more north and east. However, it was going a little north. Now we see this little wobble. I do expect it to at least resume some sort of northward motion. It was expected to landfall more into the Kingston area, which is more populated. But now it does look like it could get a little more westward into like the Montego Bay area, probably a little bit east of that, which is still a pretty populated area. I mean, you have a major airport there, international airport. So this island, Jamaica, under massive, very, very, very big time danger. Okay, this is the strongest hurricane if it were to make a direct landfall to ever impact the island. And then Cuba and the Bahamas are next, and even Bermuda. So let's take a look at the cone. 5 p.m. Monday. This is where we're at. 175 miles per hour northwest at 3 miles per hour. So it's crawling right now. Okay. And don't think it shows the millibars, but it's only down to around almost 900. We'll see if it goes sub 900. Does still have some time over water. If it is going to eyewall replacement cycle, could take long, but we'll have to see. It's expected to weaken just a bit. Still expected to landfall is 160 mile per hour category 5 into Jamaica. And we were expecting it to weaken down into a hurricane before Cuba, but now that it's gotten stronger than forecast, expected to hit Cuba as a major hurricane as well. Okay, so both these areas, especially Jamaica, going to get the brunt. Then Cuba still going to get hit by a major hurricane. I mean, major hurricane is a major hurricane. Bahamas is when it weakens down into just a typical hurricane. I wouldn't even still say typical, still pretty impactful storm for sure before it makes a close pass to Bermuda. I'll show you guys that in the further days. You know, we're just going to full forecast. I kind of was trying to restrain from this, but nothing much. There's a very solid agreement. Right now, it looks to just pass just north, but you never know. The other day I had it going right over, so we'll have to see if it shifts back south or back further north and west. Either way, it's going to be a large storm, and you're going to get impacts in Bermuda. Nothing that you guys aren't used to by now. So, let's talk about the U.S. weather. Been a while. So, right now, we've got some cooler air in the east, but short-lived. We still have the negative PNA over there in the Pacific Northwest. But we see that change. Okay, that cold air kind of migrates this way with that storm system that we're expecting. I'll show you guys that. And this is very expansive cold and followed up by more cold that comes straight from the Atlantic. This is the European ensembles. So this is where you see your classic negative EPO taking place in the east. And then you have your classic general positive PNA taking place in the west. Okay, and that leads to ridging, then troughing. Okay, cooler air gets forced down, warmer air rises up. So that's what we're kind of watching. This is November 1st, so this last into November. And we don't see this going out until about November 8th, where we see some sort of moderation period. But then you see another little area we're watching right here. And you still have a positive PNA in place, so we could easily get a reinforcing shot. But typically with any long, cold kind of spells, we get some sort of moderation period. And then we could easily end up with more. We'll have to see. But this definitely looks to last at least through the first week of November at least. So, let's see what's driving all this. So, here is your Pacific system right here. Up here, got a little cutoff low here and another low up here. and then ridging in the central U.S. and southwestern U.S. What you do see is that cutoff low in the deep south kind of gets caught up with, sorry about that, gets caught up with this low that comes from Pacific Northwest, dives down, okay, forms, you get this trough over Arkansas. Here's Melissa right here. Here you have a ridge. Let's talk about Melissa real quick. This trough, what we were seeing as one scenario several days ago was Melissa would be speedy enough, or I think it would be slow enough, and it would get yanked back into this trough. One could be it speeds up, other is it could miss this trough and then get ridged back into the U.S. But thankfully we have trended away from those situations. Still an impactful storm for other areas. So there you have your trough. Here's your ridge in the west, positive PNA. This is classic positive PNA. Now it's an unstable positive PNA, and what I mean by that is because you still have a trough over Alaska. Typically, if you wanted a positive PNA to be nice and sustained, you'd have it over Alaska, still kind of pushed to the east of Alaska. So it's very variable, and you'll see kind of how that goes there. You see it kind of beating down that positive PNA. Melissa kind of gets flung by this trough. Since the trough is positive at this point, you got Melissa getting pushed out to sea, swung out. If it was negative, it would scoop it back up. Okay, but it's positive, so everything kind of is going eastwardly, and it gets scooped out. And this ridge is helping to scoop it out to sea like that. Could it impact Atlantic Canada? Possibly, but as of right now, main track looks to be this way. Maybe if it's a big storm, once it gets like extra tropical, maybe, but don't expect much up there anymore either. And then, so there's your negative EPO that starts to take place with this system. So this Halloween system is likely going to lead to that. Troughing still in the west, kind of beating down this positive PNA, but you still have blocking up here, and it's still pretty solid. If you were an eastern cold lover, you'd want this to be a ridge over Alaska as well. And you can see how that kind of affects it, because it breaks down that troughing right there, that region right there, but it kind of provides a cold supply now. This is November 2nd, still EPS, but then you start to see how it kind of retrogrades after it cuts it off. Retrogrades, that leads to this retrograding bleeding into the Pacific Northwest, that leads to the high shifting this way, and the cooler air starting to retract from the northeast. And there you have it. Heads out November 8th, and then you get some ridging that starts to take over the entire U.S., which, I mean, that's not too abnormal. But you can see just based off these isobarbs, you see how it kind of dips down right here. Something we're watching. Maybe it's another weak trough signal. Typically, signals get much more bland like this 360 hours out. Ooh, whoa. Rather than 0 hours out. Okay, sorry about that. Don't know what happened with that. We can, unless it like shut down or something. 500 millibar. Okay, that too. Okay, so I was gonna explain more, but basically the trough is what we're watching over Alaska that's making this pattern so variable. Okay, let's see if this even works. Please tell me it does. Okay, it does. Okay, so fall foliage. If you guys remember, I showed you guys this past few days, or like a week ago, or a couple weeks ago. This is how we're progressing with colors, and I mean, compared to the last video I made on this, it is progressing well. Low colors all the way down in the southern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, almost getting into Florida. Peak colors have crossed for much of the portion of the Midwest, higher Appalachians, getting into the 95 corridor. And as we get to the end of October and start of November, peak colors across all major cities in the north and central U.S. This is when colors start to bleed into Florida as well. Past peak is for most of the country, for those central and northern U.S. by mid-November. And then its fall foliage forecast mainly continues for the southeast. And by November 30th, still don't even have Miami in the low colors yet. So we'll get there into December. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please consider subscribing, liking, sharing with your friends, like I said. And I'll be with you guys back tomorrow with the winter forecast. Have a great rest of your day.